thank you everyone for having me today. I feel slightly uneasy but slightly excited because I think most of the audience here is of a digital background. So I'm expecting I'm going to be the very, very odd one out here. But that's also the point of being here. So yes, I'm here to talk to you about a project management process, right? And a lot of people don't like this phrase, I understand, in the digital industry. However, I'm here actually to ask you guys to give us ideas about how perhaps your agile ways of working could help us in a FMCG, traditional, tangible product industry. So maybe a little bit about Costa as a company. I would like to think everybody know Costa. It is very big in the UK. It's got a lot of the way to go for the rest of the world. We were acquired by Coca Cola at the beginning of the year, and since then the vision is world domination in coffee. And about a month ago, we launched a range of coffee in a can. In the industry, it's called ready to drink. We've got 3 flavors out there. They're out there, and I would appreciate honest feedback. But moving on, how does this? Oh, and there's me. I think the slide order got rejigged by somebody. Wasn't expecting this to come up here, but I've got a LinkedIn profile, same as Max. Feel free to check it out. Right. A little bit about me. I think I've got a very different background to you guys. These are the kind of environment I've worked in. So, you know, lab, white coat, goggles, factories with bottles and cans and what have you, moving very fast. Sometimes with hairnets on, with little instruments inside the pilot plant, safety shoes, getting very messy, lots of food and ingredients inside the fingernails and everything. Anyway, that's me. What has brought me here to this audience who's got very different background to me is the word product. So I'm a product manager or product developer. A lot of you probably have that title, but I imagine we do slightly different things. And the word product has a very wide definition now. You know, our mortgage deals are products, an app is a product, and something that's got tangible 3D shape is also a product. The process in a typical FMCG or fast-moving consumable goods company, this is a very typical process of us bringing a product from idea to market. So we'd like to think it's a circular process. If we, for argument's sake, we start with idea and we move to making something, we get consumers' feedback on prototypes. Hopefully we improve a little bit. We go to market with it, we see how it performs in market, and that then feeds back to whether we do changes to the product or gives us an idea of what we launch next. So I'm going to spend a bit of time on each of the steps. I would welcome questions at any time. And again, like I said, it is actually for me to share the process with you guys for ideas about how we can make this process a little bit more nimble, but also still efficient use of people's time, the resources of the company, etc., etc. Considering the nature of the product is different and how to make it is different. So starting with ideas, typically it would be people from marketing or innovation functions, looking at the trends, looking at what competitors are doing, you know, looking at maybe sales from their past experience, how quickly a certain segment in the market is growing, etc., etc. And then they come up with an idea to say, oh, we believe this is the right thing for the company to do. They will write up a document. In there, they will estimate the size of the price, have a bit of assumptions about maybe the cost of this product, etc., etc. So how much revenue we'll get, is it incremental to what we already have on the market as a category, or is this a new category, etc., etc. They will then submit this request to the business to say, can we form a project team? And especially, can we have the research and development resources to go work on that? And then actually a lot of different functions then start working together, but probably research and development at this stage has the highest workload because they need to start having a go at making that product. So it will start in a lab, start with them talking to suppliers of different ingredients, start putting things together. A lot of tastings with internal colleagues to say, I don't know, this latte. How do you think? It has got enough coffee cut through? Is it sweet enough? Is it too milky, not milky enough? Is there a weird taste? How does it compare to Starbucks? Something like that. And for this range, we went through iteration after iteration after iteration, really many versions of the product. And for this particular project, Costa actually worked very closely with Coke, our new owner. This is the first project under them. I think about 3 days after we were officially bought, there was a cross-functional kickoff meeting in their R&D center in Brussels. About 20 people around the table, lots of charts presented about how a new owner sees the size of the market growing. It's a very small category at the moment, but the trajectory is really quick. And then the next 2 days, we spent in the lab with development team tasting many coffees, along with competitors in the key markets we wanted to launch the product in. So part of the brief from marketing would have a few guidelines in terms of what the product should be like. So in our case, we had a conscious decision that we want the product to not be very sweet at all. We understand most of the market, this type of drinks are very sweet. If you look at the sugar content, the calorie content, it could be a surprise to you. And we wanted to differentiate on that point. So that's one of the things that we were designing towards. Other things could be how much caffeine we want in it, what potential claims we want to put on. For example, I think we claim on there a double shot of espresso. It does have that much caffeine, hence, is it Dave? Yes. You're feeling the effect. Yeah, I think it's got probably the equivalent of 2 teaspoons, 2.5 teaspoons of sugar, so that's not too bad. Sometimes for a particularly new product, maybe there isn't a very close competitor example out there. We want to, kind of create something different in the market. We could involve consumers to help us design. So it could be a little workshop with 8 consumers where you give them the brief and you get them to envisage what the brand could look like, what the product could be like, what kind of, I don't know, marketing material you might be able to develop for that. So for example, if it's a, I don't know, baby shampoo, you might get new moms to give you ideas. So that's the kind of tools we could also use. What else did I want to say on that page? Probably not very much. Any questions at this stage?
I just have a question, because you talk about a global market. So because of course the taste and flavours will probably be different per country, or is this mainly UK to start with?
Yes, I think in different product categories, definitely you will see a certain strategy is to kind of design to that country's particular preference in taste. In our case, we decided that the Costa stores around the world use the same coffee, use the same recipe. What might differ is the local milk, for example. But we have guidelines as to what are the rules they have to adhere in each market. And the taste of the coffee is really important for us. That's like the red line, if you want. So that's the thing we want to keep extremely consistent across different markets. And actually, similarly to stores, there will also be milk differences locally, because you can't imagine shipping fresh UK milk all the way across to China, for example. Then there will be slight differences in milk profile. So moving on. Then we will test. So for very big FMCG companies like Unilever, Nestle, etc., they have a massive budget for very thorough quantitative consumer testing. So R&D will make something like, in a white can. Marketing will have worked up some kind of concept, what the label could look like. They'll put that together, so they will do something like called a concept product test. So they potentially show people online a concept board, or in a room like this, concept board, get people to rate how interested they are, how likely they might want to buy it. And then they either get people to taste it in a location, a central location like this, or they send samples home with people, especially if it's something that you typically use at home. and let them have it for a little while, assess it, a long list of questions, overall appeals, how likely you're going to buy, how do you think about the look of the product, the smell of the product, taste, etc., etc. Then that tested over 300 people, 500 people will give you a good sense of how likely the product is going to succeed. The typical research agencies that do this kind of test, they have matrix, they know what good looks like, so they will advise their clients, this product is likely to succeed, or these are the things you have to fix before you have a chance in the market. So yeah, you could get results, lots of percentages, lots of red and green colors. In this case, somebody tested lots of different concepts, and some are better, some are worse. And if obviously we don't pass the test, we quite typically go back to the drawing board, or we get the feedback from the test and we improve on that. So that can be both the marketing side of things and the product side of things. In our project, this particular project, it was so rushed for timing, we actually didn't do it in time. So we have now launched something that we did not have time to test and apply the learning. So yeah, I hope it does all right. It's very, very unusual because if you think something that's a product like this, you've made tons. It's now out in supermarkets. You can't just overwrite it with a 2.0 if people don't like it. You're going to have to run through that stock. And the risk would be Tesco's, if it doesn't sell very well this time, it may not give you a second chance. They'll say, I'm going to delist you. I'll give the shelf space to your competitor.
Sorry, I've got a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, I look at this as a software person, we test and iterate, but the pain is probably less for us. If we release something, we can roll back.
You can roll back, you can...
So obviously the pain you just described there, what was the driving decision to say, well, let's push this out now rather than do more testing? Quick
answer is the Coca Cola CEO promised in January it's going to hit the market mid-year.
Boss said so.
Boss said so. Yeah. Yes, a lot of things got rushed. It was quite a stressful time for a lot of people in the company. Then, yes, with some luck, we have managed to manage our supply chain, and things get made, get transported at the right time to the retailer. And hopefully we will have also procured some marketing material, outdoors, social, digital, etc., etc. Yeah. Then we sit there and wait for results.
Do you do like a big bang approach with the products when you launch them into the market, or for example here, you've had to rush through your test and iterate phase? Would you release to a single market or even a single region of a market or anything like that?
Of my past experience, part of it is to do with the deals you can negotiate with the retailers. So some of them may be able to commit to a high volume but want some period of exclusivity, etc., etc. So in our case, we have released to our stores first. So the past months, they've only been available in store. And then I think from around now, it's going to hit Asda, and it's hit a few travel channels and more and more. And this is also when the majority of our marketing spend will basically land and for people to see. I think Big Bang is probably most effective. That first month of being in store, yes, you get to see a bit of feedback, but it's also too late for you to apply any particular feedback to remake the products that are already now in depot, because you get the impact of the marketing. People can see it, people can buy it everywhere. Yeah, like I said, then you sit tight and wait for results. In Costa, not the ready-to-drink products, but our normal store sales, we actually watch it extremely closely, daily basis. We compare this week versus last year, the same week, etc., etc., and any little percentages ups and downs, which is typically driven by weather, actually, more than anything. It really makes us very nervous. And as you can imagine, in the current climate in High Street, it is quite challenging. But yeah, some people watch those percentages very closely. I think in retail, you would need to give the product 2-3 months to build up the awareness and see if there's any repeat purchase patterns, etc., etc.
Elaine?
Yeah.
How do you measure success when you've got a drink like this, as opposed to your own stores? So you wait for these 3 months and see if the test score asks that order more, or how do you know it's actually successful?
Yeah, so it's the volume, the order volume, and also social, how people are talking about it. Are there many people talking about it? Are they mainly happy about it? Any themes in the feedback? If loads of people are saying this particular product is too sweet, we know there's a problem, etc., etc. And another thing, actually, since you touched upon stores, it was quite a tough decision for the stores to decide whether they will list the product or not, because there was a nervousness that people would buy this instead of our store-made drinks, which is a lot more profitable for us, actually. But I think so far, they in the end agreed because they thought it's probably going to be a different occasion. People might buy one that's made in store and take a can for later. And it's kind of playing out that way, so let's hope it continues to be that way.
That was exactly my question about the sort of how do you make sure you don't atrophy another category? So you probably don't oversee that part of that category, which is separate. So if you think of it in store, they put all that capital outlay to buy how to make iced drinks over maybe the years, and this is obviously potentially atrophy the other category.
Yeah.
Where does that decision get made? Do you have like a different product management team that oversees?
So in this particular case, the decision was made by the UK marketing director. Oh well, managing director actually. I think in a more mature company that's done these things before, they probably will have historical data to say if you launch the vanilla flavor, will your caramel flavor take a hit? But in our case, there was no precedence, so kind of took a gamble. Yeah. So and typically this kind of results will then